have to ask, are you getting interest on the money you have in your RE Garrison escrow account? Have you checked your settlement sheets? Do you go back and review your settlement sheets? You need to know, because you may be shortchanging yourself. I'll tell you in just a minute. All right, so last time we ended on uh, item number 8, about upon termination of this lease agreement. So we're going to start on item 9, operational expenses. And this is broken down into subcategories A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And there's nothing that really jumps out at me here. As far as your operating expenses go, that's very self-explanatory. Basically, it's all on you. Maintenance and inspection, that too is very self-explanatory. Telling you that you're going to maintain the equipment as per your lease purchase agreement or your lease agreement. And basically that you're going to get a full inspection on the truck every 90 days. And if you get any kind of violation as it relates to maintaining the truck, that you're going to notify them within 10 days. If you bring a truck and you sign that truck on with them, you've not had the annual inspection on it as of the time you sign, you have 10 days in which to get that done. Item C deals with fines. Item D deals with overweight and oversized shipments. E is license plates. F deals with permits, and G deals with communications. And there's really nothing here that tells you you're going to have an ELD. If you're an owner operator and you're bringing your truck, you're leasing it on, then they're going to want to install their ELD. And my opinion, it's just my opinion, if you are purchasing your truck through Garrison, you've completed your lease, and now you're on the purchase, once you get that title in your hand, well, then you should be able to tell them to get their ELD out of that truck, and you run on your own. But that's just my opinion. They want you to run theirs, and then if you leave, then you have to give them 2 business days in which to get it uninstalled. And I tell them that's a bunch of hooey. You got about 2 minutes to get it uninstalled. It's not that difficult to uninstall those things. And I would prefer to just run on my own. But that's between you and them. Now, I do want to ask you, are you getting paid interest by Garrison for the money that you've paid in to that escrow account? Because according to the terms of their agreement on page 13, item number 11, escrow account, it says that independent contractors shall deposit with carrier the minimum of $2,000 for each tractor designated in this agreement to guarantee performance called for by this agreement. While the escrow account is under the carrier's control, carrier shall pay interest to the independent contractor on the escrow funds on at least a quarterly basis. So every 90 days, you should be getting an interest payment in one of your settlements. I'd say probably the first settlement at following the end of 90 days. And the interest rate shall be established on the date the interest period begins and shall be equal to the average yield of the 91-day, 13-week Treasury bill. And you can follow those 13-week Treasury bill rates through the Department of the Treasury, but they are supposed to pay you interest on that. And carrier shall provide an accounting to the independent contractor in one of the following ways. Item 1, by clearly indicating in individual settlement sheets the amount and description of any deduction or addition made to an escrow fund. Or number 2, by providing on a monthly basis a separate accounting to the lesser of any transactions involving the escrow fund. In addition, the independent contractor may request an accounting of the escrow account at any time. If, for any reason, the independent contractor terminates this agreement or is terminated by the carrier, the amount of the escrow funds remaining after making deductions allowed by this agreement will be returned and paid within 45 days following the termination, along with a final accounting thereof. Independent contractor hereby grants the carrier the right to deduct from his escrow account the amount of any claims for which the independent contractor is responsible under this agreement. The amount of any damages to the carrier's equipment for which the independent contractor is responsible under this agreement, or any other liability of independent contractor to the carrier under this agreement, as well as any service or supplies furnished by the carrier. If the settlement between the independent contractor and carrier is not adequate to pay for services and supplies, carrier may deduct an amount the amount on any past due payment from his escrow account. Got confused there. The expenses that may be deducted include advances, administrative charges for making advances. So if you take a cash advance, they're going to charge you an administrative fee for you taking that cash advance. And if you got it at Love's or TA or somewhere and you didn't buy fuel, they're going to charge you too. Tires, maintenance, penalties, damages, losses, base plate, license, permit fees, insurance premium, fuel and use taxes, any other taxes, fines, or statutorily mandated employee insurance claims or benefits. Well, you're not an employee, so how can they deduct for any statutorily mandated employee insurance claims or benefits if you're not an employee? And they don't have a right. If you own a truck and you hire a couple of drivers, they have no right to deduct anything for those drivers. Those drivers will be your employees and your responsibility. In the event a cargo and or personal injury property damage claim, including property damage to equipment or other claim for loss or damages, are reported to carrier, carrier may also withhold the deductible from settlements due in an open pending claim account until claims are verified and settled. If the insurance company closes the claim and no payment is made to the claimant, to be credited. Well, that would be between Garrison and their insurance company. Now, once everything is all settled and said and done, then Garrison can get together with you and work things out accordingly. But again, talk to your legal counsel and get their interpretation, get their understanding, because to me, uh, we'd have to scratch through this, because what goes on between Garrison and their insurance company ain't got a damn thing to do with me. But they're trying to hold on to all of your cash over here while they're waiting for the outcome over here to see if you need to pay anything. Well, if they want to hold on to your cash over here, then they need to be paying you interest, because they're working off of your money. So you need to be getting compensated for being inconvenienced, and for them using your money to deal with their insurance issues. That's why they have insurance. The long and short of this means they're trying to eliminate their cost of doing business and any losses that they may incur. But if they have an employee, and the employee, takes out a sign, or damages the side of a building or something, are they going to take that out of that employee's check, or are they going to let their insurance company deal with it? So, that to me is a little unfair, and that's something that needs to be negotiated. And in my opinion, before you sign this, number one, consult with your attorney. But I would just scratch through each of those lines and initial it. And if they like it, fine. If they don't, tough. They're trying to, they've built these contracts so that they're completely one-sided. And that's not only unfair, but it's illegal. And they can sit here and argue the point till the cows come home. But if you take it to a court, the court's going to tell them that this is a one-sided contract and it's illegal. It has to be a fair and equitable agreement for both parties. There has to be some balance. And this is a very imbalanced agreement. And again, I'm no attorney, but I really don't see how this is going to be enforceable under any circumstances. If we move on to item 12, well, before we move on to item 12, let's go to item 11B, where they're talking about final settlement. Disbursement of the escrow fund will be accompanied by an accounting of all final deductions. If the escrow fund is insufficient to satisfy independent contractor's outstanding obligations to carrier, independent contractor shall pay carrier in full upon 30 days written notice from carrier. If independent contractor fails to timely comply with such notice, carrier shall be entitled to charge independent contractor a monthly late fee equal to the lesser of 1.5% of the outstanding balance, or the minimum amount allowed by law. In addition, independent contractors shall be liable for any and all costs and expenses incurred by carrier in collecting independent contractors' unpaid debt, including but not limited to collection agent and attorney's fees. They can try this crap all day long. They ain't going to get nowhere, and they damn well know they ain't going to get nowhere with it. A lot of this is in here is being left up to them and their administrative staff and the policies that RE Garrison wants to employ. Well, their policies ain't got a damn thing to do with you, your company, and your policies. Again, this goes back to this being a one-sided agreement, and uh, they're trying to make this sound like, well, you really have no choice in the matter. But they can say a lot of this, but enforcing it is a horse of an entirely different color. And one of the things that these cowardly companies like RE Garrison count on is the fact that you're not going to fight back. Collection agencies are notorious because collection agencies operate under the assumption you're broke, you ain't got no money, you can't fight them. So they're going to go to a court, and they're going to get a default judgment, and then they can just sit back behind the scenes and push paper to try to enforce this default judgment. If you hire an attorney to show up at court to answer a lawsuit, that throws them off. They're not expecting that. They're not prepared for it. Now we go into negotiations. So don't let this kind of crap intimidate you, because that's all it is an intimidation tool, and it's garbage. Right? They can't enforce it. They know damn well they can't enforce it. And on the face, it might sound good, but if you go in to see a judge, all I can say to Garrison is good luck with that. If you move on to number 12, it gets into their responsibilities. It's really nothing worth mentioning there. Compliance, safety, and accountability, that's dealing with their CSA score and your CSA score. As well as, things like your clearinghouse information and things like that. Drivers, if you're not going to be driving yourself, if you have trucks that you lease on with them and you're going to hire drivers, they're saying that the drivers are your responsibility and not theirs. And then you get on into 12B, which is documents. Now, one of the things they mentioned in here is that independent contractors shall submit to carrier on a timely basis all properly completed documents, including but not limited to driver logs and supporting documents, including original toll receipts for carrier's reproductions. Screw that. You paid the toll, you keep your original toll receipts, you make a photocopy, and give them. Don't give them the original so they can make a reproduction of it. Give them a reproduction, because you paid the toll, so you can expense it out. They want that original receipt so they can give you a copy, and then they can expense out because they've got the original receipt. And it just tells you that they're going to keep the original of this agreement. One copy goes to you, another copy needs to be kept in the truck. And then item C deals with your physical and medical examinations, then drug and alcohol testing on D. E is safe operations, to operate within the limits of the law, basically, and how to handle COD shipments like you're ever going to encounter one. Item 14, to me, this is a little fuzzy because it's dealing with confidentiality. And they're saying all information, included but not limited to customer lists, trade secrets, forms, processes, developments, sales and promotional systems, prices, operations, which are disclosed to you, the independent contractor, or which you observe or come into contact with during the term of this agreement. So all of this is considered to be confidential information. And my wife and I were having a discussion about this earlier. I fail to see how anything like that would be enforceable, because while they may want to claim that this is confidential information, if you're at a truck stop talking to some driver about you're loading out of Milo's Tea, or you're loading out of Pilgrim's Pride, or Saputo, or whatever, you're just having a casual conversation. Yet you're disclosing those customers to them. How are they going to enforce that? This all goes back to what I said in a previous video about a definitions page and putting terms for these different definitions, these different words and phrases, so that there is no misunderstanding, there is no ambiguity about things. You know what they mean by this confidentiality statement. You know what they mean by breach of contract, etc., etc., etc. And that is completely missing from those documents. There's not even mentioned anywhere in here. It doesn't exist. So, there's a number of things under item 14, confidentiality, that, in my opinion, is up for discussion, because I just don't see how some of these things they mention in here can be enforced. I understand you disclosing confidential information to your employees, but I really don't see how they can enforce anything like that. All right, so let's start with item number 15. It just simply says that this agreement is binding to both parties and will inure to the benefit of both parties. Just typical boilerplate stuff there. Item 16 deals with passenger authorization, saying that you have to have written passenger authorization. You need to keep a copy of it in the truck at all times. Item 17 deals with auxiliary equipment and the completion of your performance. It just says that any outside equipment, like load locks, tarps, chains, anything like that, is to be acquired by you and at your sole expense. You have no recourse to go charge that to the carrier, or try to collect the money from the carrier. Item 18, Section A, is very boilerplate. It's your hold harmless agreement. Independent contractor agrees to defend, indemnify, pay, reimburse, and hold harmless carrier and its affiliates, subsidiaries, officers, agents, and employees from any and all direct, indirect, and consequential losses, costs, expenses, claims, including claims for injured persons, death or damage to property, demands, fines, damages. So basically it's saying that everything is on you and they're not responsible, is really what that boils down to. Oh, and if there's an attorney needed, it's also on you. Again, that's for lawyers, that's kind of standard. Your indemnify limits, it talks about the carrier's insurance policy, you being responsible for any deductible, as it pertains to their insurance policy, their cargo policy, physical damage policy, liability policy. You're responsible under this for their deductible to their insurance carrier. Um, this goes back to what I said before about this being a very one-sided contract. Um, Item C, 18C, says that if you're the independent contractor with RE Garrison, if you hire me, I'm another independent contractor. You hire me to do maintenance on your truck. All right, I have no right to go after them if you don't pay me. They are essentially not responsible for anything. They're not liable for anything. It is all 100% on you. At the end of the day, the long and short of it is that they're trying to pass 100% of their liability onto you. They're trying to pass 100% of their operating costs onto you so that everything is just profit for them. You've covered all their operating costs. You've covered any insurance deductibles. You've let them off the hook on everything. Item 18E just says that you're an independent contractor and you're going to hold the carrier harmless, and you're going to be responsible for any attorney's fees or litigation expenses that they may incur if they have to defend any claims brought by you, your workers, or any third party independent contractor. Again, like you hire me to do your PM work. They're saying that you're going to be responsible for everything. They're responsible for nothing. They're liable for nothing. And screw you. Item 19 says that you're a 1099 independent contractor. Item 20 is a non-waiver, but again, this, in my opinion, this is inapplicable because early on where we talked about breach of contract and that whole, there's typically, in contracts, there's typically a definitions page that spells out what all these different terms used within the body of the contract actually mean. And the purpose of that is to remove any kind of miscommunication, ambiguity, anything that could be construed as someone not fully understanding the meaning of something. And so that's the purpose of having a definitions page. There is not a definitions page in this yet, this non-waiver, subject to the foregoing and the limitation of liability contained in this agreement. Excuse me. In the event either party commits a material breach of any term of this agreement, the other party shall have the right to terminate this agreement immediately and hold the party committing the breach liable for damages to the extent permitted by this agreement. But again, what is the definition of a breach of contract in this agreement? How do you know if you've breached the agreement? How do you know if they breached the agreement? I guess it's really up to them. So, to me, that's a moot point. And honestly, any reasonable person reading this would probably walk away thinking the same thing. If you went into court and you said, but judge, they say breach of contract, and they reference it earlier in the contract and they reference it again here in item 20, but yet I don't know what constitutes a breach of this agreement on my part or on theirs. you would easily win that argument. You know, some of these lawyers that people use, in my opinion, they're trying to outfox people and trying to be real slick. But in reality, they're screwing themselves and their client because they're not being clear and concise. They're leaving a lot of question marks throughout their documents. And courts don't like there being question marks. When you go in for, you know, a court, when you go in for a court hearing, you file a civil action. Courts don't want to spend their time trying to interpret the meaning of something in your contracts. You know, they like clear, concise, uh, well defined, and don't waste their time with garbage like this. Now, in my opinion, a first year law student could have done a better job. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Within the legal field, what's most important is how you say something, not what you say, how you say it. And you don't want to leave any room for miscommunication or misunderstanding. Item number 21 is called a, basically that says that this is the full and complete agreement that between the two parties, and we both understand the terms of this agreement, and yes, we agree to it. But again, that really doesn't apply here, because how can you understand something that hasn't been defined? The way this is written, everything is really left up to the discretion, the sole discretion of RE Garrison and their attorneys. And you have no rights, they have all the rights. Now, if you took this to an attorney, I would be willing to bet money that any attorney who understands contract law would tell you, do not sign this. Absolutely, unequivocally, do not sign this. Severability, which is item number 22, what that means is if you take this to court and a judge rules that, you know, this section and this section are tossed out, they're no longer part of this agreement because they're illegal, or you know, whatever the case may be, then the rest of the contract will remain intact and fully in force and effect. But I can almost guarantee you that if you went to court, whether you win or lose, they would find some reason to terminate the damn contract with you, especially if you won. Item 23 deals with the governing law and the choice of forum. You know, again, that's very standard. And after that is signature pages. And that takes care of the first 23 pages of this 31-page agreement. Page 24 to 31 is going to deal with the various appendices, A, B, C, D, E, as well as your base plates and your insurance coverages and such. So we'll get into that in another video. But that pretty much covers everything in this RE Garrison operating agreement. So please go back, read over your contracts. If you're thinking about joining Garrison, before you go, I would encourage you to contact your recruiter and say, listen, before I go, could you please send me a PDF of the paperwork that I'll be signing, the lease agreement and the operating agreement, so that I can have my attorney review it. And let's see how many of you actually get it. You guys be safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.